Hey guys, it's Kathy. I am back to work on Dee Dee Farragut's challenge again, and I am really enjoying this, y'all. But I have to tell you what I did with this one. I went down a whole new rabbit hole this morning. Yep, I didn't feel like digging out pretty papers, so I just picked out some colored papers and I stenciled them, and then I spritzed on them, and I just made some papers. But what we're making is this little cutie. It's the pocket that glues down to your page, and it becomes a pocket, and then it flips out for all this journaling space, and I just absolutely love it. I love getting bang for your buck on journaling space. So that's what we're doing. And what I've done a little prep, I have to tell you, because I was a little worried about getting these folds right. But what I've done is I have cut my paper. I just took 8.5 by 11 paper and I cut it to 8 inches tall. The reason I cut it to 8 inches tall is because that's how tall I want my pocket in my journal. I want it to, you know, pretty much take up the whole page, top of the page. Or the whole, yeah. Okay, and then what I did is I went ahead and figured out the measurements for the paper that I'm using, because I know that most time I'm going to have 8.5 by 11 paper that I'm going to want to use for this pocket. So, and I'm not good at just folding paper and making it go where I want to. Dee Dee makes it a snap. She just folds it, and there it is. Mine gets all wonky and sideways, and I'm having to use my bone folder and try to get it back where I want it. But yeah, no, I'm not going to fight with it. Now, because it is just paper, it's like 20-pound paper, maybe a little bit heavier, but I am going to go very lightly on my scores because I don't want to go through my paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score at 1.5. And then I'm going to score at 4.5, and at 7.5, and at 10.5. And what that does, it gives me a 1/2 inch hinge here. It gives me a 1/2 inch front fold over flap that's going to be matted. I'm sorry, a 1.5 inch front fold over flap that's going to be matted, and it gives me 3 3-inch sections so that my paper will fold up nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my hinge over, and whichever way it's easiest for you to fold it that way. You just need it to be fold it over nicely, and kind of make sure that your edges here are even, because if they're not, then your pocket will go wonky. Okay, so then I'm just going to zigzag fold. Well, I know that if I have my hinge down here, I want this one to go this way, because we're going to fold it back on itself. And I really, really did not go very deep on my scores. That's why I'm having a little bit of having to tell it where I'm going to make it go. There we go. And I'm just zigzagging. Then, and you want to make sure that your corners meet up pretty well right here. Then what you have is you have your 1.5 inches that's going to be matted. Okay, and then you have your fold outs, and your hinge is going to get glued down to your pocket paper, and the pocket is going to be glued down to your journal page. So that is just a really sweet little pocket with lots of journaling space on it. Now, I need to make sure, see, I cut this one a little bit long. I cut my mats out of a piece of 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. And this is part of what I coffee stained yesterday. I coffee dyed yesterday. If y'all saw that video, you know I went down a big old rabbit hole yesterday too. But I am just gonna take my chances and snip that off a little bit. So here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna mat this. Hope everybody's doing good today. I am. For some reason, my mind has been thinking about my crazy job in my prior life. I don't know if y'all know I was an accountant. I was a CPA. And I absolutely loved general ledger work, business tax, estate taxes, all those odd taxes and things. I just absolutely loved it. Audit, no, didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. But they found out that I could do it. And evidently, I must have been pretty good at it, even though I hated it. And, yeah, I kept telling them, yeah, I don't, this is not what I want. But I stuck with it for years and years and years. Then, and I was still doing business taxes. We worked ungodly hours. It was awful. And I was still doing business taxes at the time. But they had someone hired in full-time for business taxes and general ledger work. And I kept telling them, that's the job I want. I want that job. Well, needless to say, they kept me in audit. I told them I would take a pay cut for the business tax job. Nope, never happened. Okay, look. So here we've got this nice pocket. Like I said, 8 inches is how tall I wanted mine. You could do yours at 6 inches. You could be using scraps and adjust this however you want it. You could put, you know, other folds in it, whatever you want. But I'm going to cut my little divot. And there we go. The pocket will glue down on the page here. You'll have that pocket, and then you'll also have journaling space. I just think that's a sweet pocket. Yep. Okay, I got to get my little purple lid here, or else I'm going to have glue problems. Okay, so here we go again, one more time. I've cut my paper to 8 tall by 11 wide. And I've cut my pocket to 8 tall by 3 inches wide, because that's how wide our panels are. And then this one is my mat for the front. My front is 1.5 inches, so I cut my mat at 1.25 inches, and I think that I'm going to have to do the same thing with this one. Oh, it is exactly the right size, but if I wanted to leave an edge all the way around, I would cut 1/4 inch off this, but I'm okay with it. Okay, and I'll try to show you when we get there what I'm talking about with that. But anyway, yeah, back to my story. So, business tax person left, the one that had the full-time business tax job. Okay, again, I'm going to score at 1.5, very lightly because this is just paper. 4.5, 7.5, and 10.5. And this one is one that you really want this 1/2 inch score to be pretty spot on. Okay. How many times have I started my story now? A few, I'm sure. But anyway, yeah. So, needless to say, they left me an audit. Hired somebody in from out of state for business tax. See, I knew I was getting that a little off, but it'll be okay. It's just paper. So yeah, I started weighing my options. And I started praying about it a lot. And lo and behold, the Lord sent me a new opportunity. And here I am, years and years and years later. But I am blissfully retired now. Did I mention blissfully? Yeah. Okay. And it doesn't matter what order you glue things in, what gets glued first, what gets glued last. It does not matter a bit, because basically you're just matting things at this point. So yeah. So I can say that life has been good to me. The Lord had other plans, is all I know about that, because if they had given me that business tax and general ledger full-time job, and I was working full-time, I was working double full-time on those audits and things. I had to take work home with me. I had to, yeah, be at the office. I've slept on the floor in my office, and let me tell you, that is just not right for a human to have to do. And this is where I was talking about, if I wanted to, I'm okay with the edge on both sides and not at the top and bottom, but if I wanted that same edge, that same offset all the way around, then I'd cut this 1/4 of an inch. But not going to. But yeah. So I guess the Lord takes us in the paths that we're supposed to go in. Whether we think so at the time or not. Because He sure has blessed me in these later times. Okay. So these do go together really quick, but if you're like Dee Dee and you can just fold your paper and make it go where you want it to go, then that's great. But I guess the perfectionist in me wants it to be just so. Okay, now I need to do my little divot. Sorry, that was loud, wasn't it? I always shoot myself in the face with those divots. Oh, let me tell you what I did this morning. You know, while I was having my trip down the rabbit hole, I was using my, I don't know if you can even see it. Yeah, you can see it a little bit on these. I was using my sprays. First I stenciled and then I sprayed. Well, you know what happens when those glitter spray bottles get clogged up? You always want to wipe the nozzle before you put them away. And I'm usually pretty good about that, but every once in a while they'll still stop up a little bit. You've got, sometimes even go so far as to take a pin, a straight pin, and just unclog that little nozzle. So, well, lo and behold, I had one of those today. Sure did. And I couldn't get it unclogged. And I turned it over and stuck a straight pin in it. And where do you suppose all that glitter spray went? Right in my face. Yep. I had a mess. But that's okay too. Okay. Now, put this mat on there. I got some slow gluing going on today. And as usual, I'm shaky. Makes for a pretty glue line. With this art glitter glue, you really don't need a lot of it. Okay, last one. Okay, this one, see, I cut it shorter so I can go back and move that back up. Yeah, I should have checked this before I laid it down. It'll be all right. It is just paper. Isn't that some wild scrapbook paper? Ooh, I had the coffee out of that and used the back. And I figured out a new way of drying them. Used to, I would just take them and spread them out all over my front porch. Well, our front porch used to be all screened, but the kids, you know, yeah, they kicked right through part of it, and it ended up, we've pulled the screen off of it. So I have, on occasion, had to take myself all over the yard to pick up paper that had blown off the porch. So, but yesterday I found and then, you know, the paper would have dirt on it from being on the porch and all that good stuff. Now this right here doesn't really bother me, and when we ink around it, it'll be, you won't see it anymore. But if something like that bothers you, just come in here with your paper trimmer and trim it off. There we go. Now your edges are perfect. Okay, so that is what I have for you today. Oh, I was going to tell you what I did with my paper yesterday. I got lids to, like, the big storage containers. I have a couple of them here that I use in my craft room, and I don't use the lids, so I took the lids outside and put the paper in the lids, and there's just enough of a lip that if the wind blows, as long as it's not blowing too hard, it keeps the paper in the lid. So I piled them up in there and put regular, well, I put this colored paper in between them, so maybe they'd get some coffee also. And then I laid those lids out there in the sun, and it worked. I didn't have to go chase my paper all over the county. So anyway, that was my new trick. So thank you all so much for watching, and thank you, Dee Dee, for showing us this pocket and for sticking with your 3 and 15 series. I'm really loving it. Y'all need to try it. Go over to Dee Dee's channel and start from the beginning, and you'll really build up a stash before you know it. And like I said, I'm not doing mine to Christmas because right now I don't need Christmas, but I do need other things, so other themes. Okay, I'm gonna let y'all go, and I'm gonna go check on the family, and I will see you next time. Thank you.